The farewell ceremony for Ted Turner became one of the most emotional gatherings in modern media history as family members, close friends, journalists, athletes, entertainers, and political figures gathered to honor the legendary founder of CNN. Following his passing at the age of 87, after complications related to Lewy body dementia, tributes from around the world continued pouring in, but nothing compared to the emotion felt inside the memorial service itself. Held in Atlanta, the city most connected to Turner's rise as a broadcasting pioneer, the ceremony reflected both the scale of his influence and the deeply personal relationships he built throughout his extraordinary life. Outside the venue, large crowds gathered quietly, many holding flowers, photographs, or handwritten messages thanking Turner for changing television forever. Inside the memorial, the atmosphere was filled with reflection rather than spectacle. A massive screen displayed moments from Turner's decades-long career, including the launch of CNN in 1980, his ownership of the Atlanta Braves, his environmental activism, and his unforgettable public appearances that made him one of the most recognizable figures in media history. As soft instrumental music played throughout the hall, attendees were seen embracing one another while revisiting stories about Turner's bold personality and fearless ambition. Many guests reportedly became emotional while watching clips of the younger Turner, confidently declaring that 24-hour news television would change the world, a vision many doubted at the time, but which eventually transformed global media forever. Family members delivered deeply personal tributes during the service. Those closest to Turner spoke not only about his business accomplishments, but about his humor, generosity, stubbornness, and complicated humanity. One emotional speech described him as a man who dreamed louder than anyone else in the room. Another family member reflected on how Turner constantly challenged limits, refusing to accept that something was impossible simply because others believed it could not be done. The emotional weight of the ceremony became especially visible when longtime friends from the broadcasting world took the stage. Veteran CNN anchors and former executives shared stories about the chaotic early days of building the network. They recalled how Turner demanded constant innovation, pushed employees to think bigger, and believed the network could compete against traditional giants despite overwhelming skepticism. Several speakers noted that Turner's greatest gift was not simply creating a news channel. It was convincing people to believe in impossible ideas. That message resonated deeply throughout the memorial service as colleagues reflected on the risks Turner took during his career. One of the most emotional moments came when archived footage of Turner discussing life, aging, and legacy appeared on the screen. In the clip, recorded years before his passing, Turner spoke calmly about wanting to leave behind something meaningful that improved the world. As the footage played, many attendees were visibly wiping away tears. The memorial also highlighted Turner's enormous contributions beyond broadcasting. Environmental leaders praised his dedication to wildlife conservation and land preservation. Over the course of his life, Turner became one of the largest private landowners in North America and devoted millions toward conservation projects and environmental causes. Representatives connected to the United Nations also honored his philanthropic legacy, remembering his historic billion-dollar pledge supporting humanitarian initiatives. Speakers described him as someone who believed media influence should be used not only for profit, but also for global responsibility. The sports world was heavily represented during the memorial as well. Former players and executives connected to the Atlanta Braves reflected on how Turner revolutionized sports broadcasting through cable television exposure. Many credited him with helping transform the Braves from a regional team into a nationally recognized franchise. The wrestling industry also paid emotional tribute to Turner during the ceremony. Clips from the World Championship Wrestling era played briefly during one segment, reminding attendees how Turner's networks helped elevate professional wrestling into mainstream entertainment during the 1990s. Ric Flair was reportedly among those seen becoming emotional, while remembering Turner's support for wrestling performers during the peak WCW years. Other wrestling personalities, including Eric Bischoff and William Regal, also reflected on the opportunities Turner created for an entire generation of performers. As the ceremony continued, guests repeatedly returned to one central theme. Ted Turner never accepted limitations. Whether challenging media norms, competing against established networks, or supporting causes others ignored, he consistently approached life with unusual fearlessness. That fearlessness became one of the defining emotions of the service itself. Rather than focusing only on sadness, many tributes celebrated Turner's energy, unpredictability, and relentless confidence. Friends described him as someone who entered every room with intensity and left lasting impressions on nearly everyone he encountered. Outside the memorial venue, fans continued gathering throughout the day. Some shared memories of growing up watching CNN coverage during major world events, while others reflected on Turner's influence through sports and entertainment. For many, his death represented more than the loss of one individual. It symbolized the end of an era in television history. The closing moments of the service were especially emotional. As attendees stood together in silence, a final montage played featuring Turner throughout different periods of his life, laughing during interviews, sailing competitively, visiting conservation projects, speaking passionately about journalism, and celebrating with colleagues during major career milestones. The final image shown reportedly featured Turner smiling during an early CNN broadcast, symbolizing the vision that changed global media forever. As guests slowly exited the venue, many remained visibly emotional. Conversations throughout the crowd reflected gratitude, admiration, and disbelief at the scale of Turner's impact across so many industries. Though the memorial marked the end of his physical journey, many attendees emphasized that Turner's legacy will remain impossible to separate from modern broadcasting itself. Every 24-hour news network, every globally televised breaking story, and every cable sports broadcast still carries traces of the system Turner helped build decades ago. In the days following the service, tributes continued flooding social media from journalists, celebrities, athletes, and fans around the world. Many described Turner as difficult, brilliant, stubborn, visionary, and unforgettable all at once, a combination that made him unlike anyone else in television history. In the end, Ted Turner's farewell was not simply about mourning a media executive. It was about honoring a man whose ambition reshaped how the world receives information, watches sports, and experiences television itself. And as the final guests left the memorial, one feeling seemed to unite everyone present: the understanding that people like Ted Turner do not appear often, and when they are gone, an entire era leaves with them.